All right. Let's do this. We got another podcast underway. We got a bunch of good stuff coming your way. Obviously, we do a little planning before each show, so I have a list of things that have been approved that I'm supposed to talk about. But I think today we're going to act up a little bit. I'm going to go off track slightly because I actually had a rather interesting argument just the other day. So we're going to talk about that right after the break. It's a little NBA Finals talk. We obviously got some stuff where we got some NFL guys retiring pretty young. Then there's the whole Allen Iverson, was he drunk thing. We got all that coming up after the break. Stay with it.
This is the FTP Podcast.
All right, like I said, I'm going off track a little bit here. I said I wasn't going to spend too much time on this, but I want to jump into the NBA Finals first, just because I specifically had this argument. Obviously, you know, the Kyrie Irving injury is in the headlines. He'll be out for the rest of the finals with a fractured kneecap. And, you know, everyone's wondering, well, should David Blatt have played him 44 minutes? I'm a big proponent of, I'm not sure what David Blatt is more than a guy with his name on an office door. Is he really the head coach? Yeah, that's more LeBron's team. And really the last possession in game one really told me that, because there's no coach worth his salt that's, you know, just going to tell him, you know, go take that desperation three. He tells him, you know, he runs some sort of play, get the man at least a mid-range shot, a realistic opportunity to make that bucket. I'm not saying that LeBron couldn't have made that fadeaway three-pointer on one leg, but I'm saying that if I'm trying to win a basketball game, that's not my ideal possession. That's a shot from no man's land. So, that being said, I'm not even going to touch on Game 2 yet. I haven't gotten a chance to really digest all of that information. But looking at Game 1 and the reaction from Game 1 is what I really want to look at. Because everyone, after Game 1, after the Kyrie injury, everyone has basically, you know, we're writing off the Cavs. Everyone's saying this is the Warriors series, and, you know, we're seeing people saying 4 and 5 games. And I'm one of the ones that picked the Cavs before the series started. And I was even given the opportunity to jump off my pick. And, you know, for me, that's really tough because it's definitely appetizing. You're looking at an injury. You're looking at a team that's already down. And you're saying, well, I mean, can LeBron do it by himself? So it's definitely an appetizing decision. But I had to talk. I said, I'm going to stick with my guns. This is my pick. I made it before the series started. Regardless of what Kyrie does, I'm putting my money on LeBron right now. And the way the Warriors have elected to defend the Cavs is something that I'm just going to have to simply, and you know what? Steve Kerr got some balls, because that takes guts. He went against the conventional wisdom. I mean, it's conventional around sports that 9 times out of 10, what you want to do, I mean, you can look at simple things like a hack-a-shack and stuff like that. You want to get your star player out of rhythm. Let those role player guys beat me. He's going completely against that and saying, you know what, if LeBron goes for 80, whatever, that's the only way they're going to beat us, let him go for 60. We'll play him one-on-one, and we're going to pressure those other guys and make sure that they're not hitting those open jumpers, because they're really dangerous when they get on. So I really love that. But I really think, I mean, specifically Game 1, just the way it ended, because of the switch in perception. I'm not saying that Golden State played their best game, because they didn't. But I'm not saying that the Cavs played their best game either, because they didn't. So neither team played an A1 game, in my personal opinion. But what I've seen from reaction across sports, I mean, this is broadcasters, fans, are that the Warriors are getting a lot more credit given to them for not having their best game, as opposed to the Cavs getting credit for necessarily taking them off their game. And the Warriors are getting a lot more credit for the Cavs for taking the Cavs off their game, as opposed to the same thing. They're not getting the same treatment because the Warriors pulled out that game. And what I keep saying to myself is, all right, LeBron took that desperation three at the end of regulation that almost, I mean, it rimmed out, so obviously it missed and doesn't matter. And then Shumpert had a shot that, in my opinion, was even a better look. It almost went in too. So they had 2 looks at that would have won it at the end of regulation. Had they nailed one of those shots, this would be an entirely different conversation right now. You hear people saying, oh, the Warriors have to change their defensive mindset. They're crazy. This first-year head coach is in over his head. Everything, the vulture would be out right now, ready to eat them alive. But because he missed those shots, you're seeing people saying, well, the Warriors didn't play their best games and things like that. And I'm not saying that the Warriors did. I'm not saying that the Cavs deserve to win that game. I'm not saying that the Cavs are necessarily the more talented team. I did pick them to win the series, but that's not the point right now. The point right now is that people are allowing one game from both teams and allowing the fact that one team came out on top to completely sway them from the other direction. And I mean, people were asking LeBron all week, oh, how do you feel to be the underdog now? And it's like, one game? This is a 7-game series. Now, when they're down 3-0, then come talk to me about them being an underdog. I understand Kyrie Irving is a big part of the equation. But even in the argument I had earlier this week about this exact topic, I was saying, well, look how LeBron played when they played him one-on-one. They were applauding the way Iguodala and Draymond Green played him. And I'm like, okay, they did an all right job, but I'm by far am not applauding them. If this was a football game and I was playing the 49ers and Colin Kaepernick runs for 200 yards, I'm not saying, well, you know what? Those corners did a damn good job covering those wide receivers. That's not how this works. That is not how this works. You have to look at it, and yes, they did go into it saying, well, we'll let LeBron get his. And I completely understand that train of thought. I completely understand what they were doing, and it makes sense. It just goes against conventional wisdom on what's normally done. That doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that it's different. So, yeah, LeBron went out. LeBron got his. I'm not necessarily saying that they were easy points. He wasn't just getting given shots. He did have to work for them, so those guys did do decent jobs on him. But the point is, they kept saying, well, what do you expect him to do? Not score? He's the best player in the world. So what you're telling me is that he's the best player in the world, and I cannot expect him to just not score. But all of a sudden, you're going to call this man the underdog because of one game? Now, you want to talk to me after game 3, and there you haven't won a game yet. Then you call this man the underdog. But until then, and only then, do not offer me the opportunity to change my pick. I will stick with my guns until I die. I made a selection. You can roll back the tape. I'll make it again. Cavs in 7. I'll say it one more time for you just in case you ain't heard me. Cavs in 7, Cavs in 7, Cavs in 7. I don't care if Kyrie out there. I don't care who the other 4 players out there. Right now, I am going with that man with the last name James. I saw something earlier in this playoff run, and I think he is a man on a mission. I don't care. Now, when they lose, if I am wrong, so be it. I will face that trauma at the time. I have no problem with the Warriors. I actually used to be a Warriors fan. I love an underdog story. I love a team that's trying to redo conceptions. A team like the Warriors haven't been in the championship in a long time. So I would 100% applaud them for trying to win and do their thing. I loved Clay coming out in the draft, but that has nothing to do with nothing, and I do not have to root for them right now. I am not a historic LeBron fan. I have hated that man since he left Cleveland. I thought that whole decision thing was foolishness. But I have picked him. I am going to ride with him, and don't nobody offer me no opportunity to jump off my Cavs bandwagon for the finals. Not no more. All right, now that I'm off my soapbox, we're going to go to a break, and then we're going to get back on schedule. So that way, when I get a phone call later, I don't get killed. All right, stay with it.
This is the FTP Podcast.
All right, getting back at it and getting back on topic, on rundown. We had a lot of young NFL guys retire this offseason. Earlier this week, Antonio Davis from the 49ers retired. And he's not even the first young guy from the 49ers to hang it up. We saw Chris Borland, who by far is the biggest young retirement. He hung it up this offseason after having a stellar rookie season. And, I mean, we saw guys like Jason Worlds, Colin McCarthy now. He's hanging it up as well. I mean, this is a big deal. I think you see an influx of just guys. I mean, primarily just young guys. It's kind of alarming, and I think it all goes back to the concussions and the risks of playing the game. And a lot of these guys are even mentioning them that, is it really worth it? And I think This is something that the NFL definitely should be worried about. This is a very serious topic. Obviously, concussions are dangerous, but I think today, obviously, it's a lot safer than it was a few years ago, and each year there's a growing knowledge about the dangers of concussions and ways to prevent them. There's new helmet technology and different things like that are coming out and that are helping keep guys safer while they're on the field. But will it ever be 100% safe? And that's a major question. So then you're weighing risk versus reward, and you're looking at things like, okay, what is my quality of life later on going to be if I continue to play, continue to take these hits, and jeopardize my brain health? Because, when you look at your body, the most important thing on your body is your brain. So you're seeing a lot of these guys with this knowledge just saying that they're hanging it up. And, Herm Edwards even went on, after Chris Borland hung it up earlier this offseason, he went on record with USA Today saying that, there's a line of guys behind him, and he may just be the first one that we see now that he was brave enough to step out and say, you know what, forget it. We may see a lot more of this more frequently. And honestly, I'm not saying that I'd necessarily be surprised by it. You're going to see a lot of guys. You've seen guys in the past couple of years in the draft, guys that would have been early round picks saying, I'd rather go to med school, or I'd rather do something else, or just hang it up instead of go and pursue this dream. And I'm not saying that there's ever going to be a lack of players or people trying to get into the NFL. I highly doubt that will ever happen. Will those top echelon guys really? I don't think we're going to see a lot of them hang it up either. Not to say that any of these guys that retired weren't top echelon talents or are high level guys, but none of them had reached a like the pinnacle of their career. I think Borland was definitely the biggest one to retire. Antonio Davis, he was a great offensive lineman, but he's not necessarily like the face of a team. Like if you would have seen a Peyton Manning retire in his heyday, I don't think we're going to have that problem with quarterbacks just because of all the different rules protecting them. But like if you'd have seen an Adrian Peterson or an Arian Foster retire after, having an awesome season, just saying, the dangers, I've done what I set out to accomplish, I'm going to hang it up, then I think it would send more swirls through the NFL circles. Right now, two of the bigger names of these young guys that retired came right out of the same locker room. And personally, it makes me wonder, well, is there something in the water there? But, really, I think it's just guys getting an opportunity, looking at the information that's being provided to them, and listening. There's no guarantee how long your NFL career would be. You could go out one game, have a knee injury, and that be it. And you've, at that point, already sustained enough brain injuries or concussions and things of that nature that could jeopardize you for the rest of your life. So why not hang it up prior to that, take a preemptive strike on it, just like they're attempting to preempt you getting these conditions by, taking extra precautions, lack of practice, things like that. All these different things it's the same way of thinking as far as, except they don't want to get on the field to put themselves in harm's way, period. Which makes sense. In my opinion, I think the technology and the understanding has evolved to such a point. And you can just look in recent history, a guy like Javid Best. I don't think he was that long ago. He was a first-round pick. But in today's NFL, he wouldn't even be drafted. He wouldn't be allowed to suit up, period. He was a very talented guy, but concussions were a problem for him. And now, he's even gone as far as sue the NFL and helmet maker Rydell. So, like I said, I think so much information has been learned on this, because I can remember in my lifetime when concussions just weren't a big deal, because I might, he was diagnosed with a concussion, might miss a play, maybe two, and then you're like, all right, he's coming back now, let's do this. And now you're looking at it, if he's diagnosed with a concussion, he's out definitely for the game and possibly for a few weeks. So you're just looking at a difference in perception, difference in knowledge. I think knowledge is growing. The more research that is done on this, the safer it can be made. I think it makes sense for a lot of these guys to be worried. Obviously, you are putting your brain health, your long-term health in jeopardy every time you suit up. Whether it be a knee injury or a head injury, it can jeopardize you in the long term. And the NFL has no guarantees as far as how long you will be around. You will be around as long as you can help a team. And you get a bad enough concussion on one play, and that's it. Nobody else is going to fool with you. So I completely understand these guys saying, you know what? I'm going to hang it up. My health is my health. I've accomplished enough, and no one can tell me that I couldn't play with the best of the best because I set out to do that, and I accomplished it at an NFL level. And these guys did. So, I mean, if they're okay with that and they're taking their long-term health into account, makes perfect sense to me. And we got a little bit from Colin McCarthy and Chris Borland on that. Let's hear what they have to say on the topic.
So I was going to play 10, 12 years, make a couple of runs, maybe make the Pro Bowl. You know, I had all kinds of expectations set for myself, but, you know, injuries. I don't know what to say. I mean, I had my ankle. I had, you know, hamstrings. I had my concussions. You know, it's just, I understand it's a part of the game, and obviously I dealt with injuries before, and I overcome them. And I come back and I play and I'm good. But this last one I took really put a toll on me.
It's a unique decision to me. I'd done a lot of research of what I had experienced in my past, projected to what I would have to do to be the linebacker I wanted to be. And for me, it wasn't worth the risk. Not to say it's a certainty. I could be wrong. I hope I'm not. I hope I am wrong, honestly. But for me, it was the right decision.
So now, another thing people have been kind of swirling about this week is, you know, in a recent book, they've been saying that Allen Iverson was possibly drunk during the great practice rant. Can I get a bite from that?
I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice. I mean, listen, we're talking about practice. Not a game. We're talking about practice.
Personally, I don't care if he was drunk. We was just talking about practice. No, but seriously, I mean, there have been a lot of other athletes that have done a lot worse things than, you know, than be drunk during a press conference. And, you know, I just honestly don't think that it really matters. If he was drunk, so be it. But if he was drunk, it wasn't handled at the time. Should it have been handled at the time? Yes, it wasn't. But at the end of the day, I don't think it should be a big deal now. You definitely shouldn't be taking shots at the guy's character, which Allen Iverson is another guy like a Floyd Mayweather that people have tried to assassinate his character time after time, whether he has deserved it or not. I mean, we're talking about how many years later? If he was drunk, did he kill anybody? Was he driving? Was he smoking weed? I'm not seeing anything. Last time I checked, alcohol was legal. Was he at work drunk? That's another discussion. But at the same time, on game day, he wasn't showing up drunk. And we have history of not NFL, but NBA players that, you know, have put Hennessy and things like that in their water bottles to drink at halftime. Seriously? It wasn't during the game, and we know for a fact NBA players have admitted to it that they have drank alcohol at halftime. All right, I'm not practicing this. We're going to take another break, and we're almost done. We're going to wrap it up. We got some Stanley Cup coming up. Stick with it.
You are now listening to the FTP Podcast.
All right, Stanley Cup final underway, and this thing is going to go down in the wire. It's going to be quite a series. Game 2 had a lot of scoring, each team snagging 2 goals in the second period. Come on, where's the defense, man? Tampa Bay held the lead heading into the final period. The Blackhawks tied the game to make it 3-3. Comeback story. I love them. I love them all. But the Bolts, they took the lead back on Jason Garrison goal, and they won it 4-3. I mean, that thing was definitely, it was back and forth, and after the game, they had a lot to say about it.
We didn't change our game no matter what happened out there. It's always tough when you're up and you're feeling good about yourself, and then you go down 2 quick ones. But we didn't change anything. We bounced right back and found our game right away and just chipped away.
I think we gained some confidence today knowing that we could play a solid game and finish it this time with the lead heading into the third. So, I mean, for most of the series we've had the lead. So we got to build on that, and we know how difficult the building it is to go into Chicago and win. But I think we've played in some pretty tough buildings along this way. We've gained the experience and looking forward to the challenge.
All right, Bolts goalie Ben Bishop, he had to leave the game twice, and it's interesting to see how injuries impact the remainder of the series. And with hockey, you never know what's going on with injuries. I mean, these guys played through all kinds of stuff. All right, winding down on time now for our moment in sports history. Let's take a listen.
With 1/8 of a mile to go, American Pharoah's got a 2-length lead. Frosted is all out at the 16th pole. And here it is. The 37-year wait is over. American Pharoah is finally the one. Triple Crown!
That is a moment in sports history. Congratulations to American Pharoah joining a really elite club, only the 12th horse to win the Triple Crown. And in 37 years, I wasn't even alive the last time somebody won the Triple Crown. And I might not be the next time someone wins it. Who knows? All right, thanks again for listening. You catch up with us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, SoundCloud, YouTube, you name it, we got it. Type in From the Press Box and you'll find it. Thanks for listening again. See you next time. Deuces.